Well, I wanted to point out a couple of very interesting things that I reflected on before in preparation for coming here that will kind of open the door to a really good discussion. One of them is, when I was in California, and I had a big practice, Linda and I, we had really a big practice down there, and one of the contracts I had was for victims of violent crimes. So the state of California had a program where if you are a victim of a violent crime, you could come to someone like me, come to any therapist you wanted, and the state of California would pick up the tab. They would pay for it. So I had, a continuous stream of rape victims, people who were at a robbery scene, so they're, buying food at a 7-Eleven, and someone comes in and robs the store, holds a gun to their head. There are people who were assaulted on the street. Anybody who was a victim of violent crime would go through this program, or they could, and I would see them. Now, here's why I tell you about this. I had just taking the people who were present during a robbery and were at gunpoint, and they could have easily been shot. No stress. Their minds were clear as a bell. 2 hours later, they were a stress case. But at the time of the robbery, because I would ask them that just to show them that it wasn't circumstantial, to show them. And they would say, yeah, George, I couldn't. And you know what they'd say? I couldn't afford to be stressed out. I had to have my wits about me. Being stressed out and tense was a luxury for me. It could have cost me my life if I didn't keep my bearings. Okay? 2 hours later, they're so stressed out that they have to go into this program because they have post-traumatic stress. Okay? If you look at the situations that are the most stressful by far for human beings, it's crises and catastrophes like floods, fires, natural disasters. You talk to the people who were there, no stress. Why? They were too wrapped up in the moment. And they knew that if they wanted to protect themselves and their families, they needed a clear head. They needed to have their mind in a good place. And they did that. So you'd have a fire in a building. And before the fire, everybody was all bogged down in their own drama, and their own worry, concern, and conflict and resentment. And the fire bell rings. Within 30 seconds, everybody in the building has a clear head. They proceed outside. They watch the fire. Really good place. All right, looking at the fire. I hope everybody gets out. There's the firemen. They're climbing up the ladder. Okay, so then they take care of the fires and everything. Everybody goes in. They stuff it all back into their heads. They're where they were before the fire happened. Now, I find it really interesting that when people are in the most so-called stressful of circumstances, they're the most relaxed, in the moment, clear-headed. Go figure. What's the deal with that? On the other hand, if you take a circumstance that has virtually no import, no real reason or justification for being stressed, you find very consistent high levels of stress. For example, a person's off for the day and they're driving their car to the store, they're going to go shopping, and there's a car that, the radiator overheated over the side. So you have a pileup of cars, you have traffic. There may be 30 cars, merging into one lane. You're going to find a lot of stress in the people in those cars. And it's nothing. It's nothing. It doesn't have any import to them. There's nothing at risk. Okay, the biggest argument at risk, someone's going to be late to an appointment that they have. Well, how does that compare with being near a volcano or one of those floods? But you talk to people and they will say, "Oh yeah, if I get into traffic, I mean that is road rage. And it's just." Now, anybody that didn't know anybody would say, "Explain that to me. How that would be stressful." So you have people who really should be stressed who aren't, and you have people who really shouldn't be stressed that are. And it makes you wonder, what is stress about? What is the nature of it? Well, it is no escaping the fact that that there's something happening inside people's minds that accounts for their stress and distress. Because people in a burning building adjust their minds, they change their minds. And people who are in a good place and get in a traffic jam, they make an adjustment in their minds. There's something happening inside people's minds that explains the phenomenon of pressure and feeling down, feeling unhappy. And that is the hope of the three principles and the hope of the programs. That if in fact stress is originating within people's minds, and people can in fact change their minds at a moment's notice in order to meet the immediacy of a situation and the emergency of a situation, that alone argues that people are bigger than the stressful states of mind that they go in. You see? And the premise is that the more you understand how that happens inside of a person, which is my job tonight, is to get that across to you. The more you understand how that happens inside a person, the more you're able to change your mind, get over yourself, and stay out of stress before the fact. You see, stress is so accepted that if you go to a stress program, it will be called stress management. It won't be called stress elimination or living without stress. It'll be called stress management, and people accept that. If you go Google it on Google stress treatment, you'll get stress management. But clearly, stress management is like having a leaky roof and putting a bucket under it. It's not a solution. It's just a mitigating circumstance. suggesting that every human being on earth has the power to fix that roof. And if they fix the roof, they don't need the bucket anymore. You see, and that's the hope of it.